Hey guys, it is me, the Emerald Sword, and welcome back to another video. Where today I will be reviewing Salem's Lot for all of you. So I've been wanting to review Salem's Lot for a long time, and if you remember back to my previous book review, which was Black House, I mentioned that I was originally going to do Cycle the Werewolf and then Storm of the Century, and then I kind of found out that the new Salem's Lot movie was coming out on October 3rd onto the Max streaming service. So I was like, okay, I gotta read Salem's Lot again. So yeah, as I said, this is my second time reading Salem's Lot. It is still very good, and I will get into that in a second. But in the next video, I will be reading Night Shift, which has something to do with Salem's Lot, which I will also explain in a second. Sorry, I don't know what happened there. Anyway, so Salem's Lot. I guess this isn't the best size comparison because this is like a mass market paperback. It isn't a trade paperback. But it's longer, but it's not long. Like, especially with the past couple Stephen Kings, like we've been reading The Talisman and Black House, like Insomnia, and all these other really long books this year. So it's really nice because all those were like 25, 26 plus hours, and the Salem's Lot is only 17 and a half hours. So I just found that like really soothing. I didn't have to like do as much like mental gymnastics to understand all of it. And because I'd already read it, I already kind of knew what I was getting myself into. So basically, what is Salem's Lot about? Well, every time I tell someone that I read Salem's Lot, they always ask me if it's about the Salem witch trials. I am ashamed to say that it is not about the Salem witch trials, but I mean, since it's called Salem's Lot, you're forgiven if you think that. So anyway, what Salem's Lot is actually about is this writer guy named Ben Mears, which is my name, not Mears, but Ben. Yeah, that's me. And he returns to his hometown, which is called Jerusalem's Lot, shortened in the book as Salem's Lot, because he's trying to write a new book, and he thinks that a childhood trauma experience that he had at Jerusalem's Lot, the house involved, which is called the Marston House, will help him write a good story. And so along the way, he meets this girl named Susan, and she's like really nice and pretty and stuff, so they start like hanging out together and falling in love and stuff, you know, all that romance stuff. But what I like about Salem's Lot is, especially for an earlier Stephen King, it's like Carrie, his first book. It was very character-based. And The Shining, his third book, was also very character-based. But Salem's Lot, it's about the entire town. It's not just about one person or one group of people like in Carrie or The Shining. Salem's Lot is about the whole town, which I think is really good. There are so many named characters, like over 100, I think, which is insane. And yeah, basically, like every couple chapters, we have this section called the Lot, and like 1, 2, 3, and 4. There's 4 sections of the Lot, and it's basically like, what is the town doing? Like, what is the town's daily basis? Who are the people in town, and what do they do? So yeah, it's really cool. It introduces you to all of these characters and stuff who most of which are going to be important later in the story. And like, yeah, so that's like most of the book. And then we meet this guy named Father Callahan. He's like a priest. And then, of course, we know Ben and Susan. And there's this teacher guy named Matt Burke. And there's this doctor named Dr. Jimmy Cody. And there's this kid named Mark Petrie. And these are our main characters. So what actually happens in Salem's Lot? Well, about a year before Ben Mears arrives to Jerusalem's Lot, this one guy named Straker comes to Jerusalem's Lot to buy the Marston House and a shop so that he and his partner, Mr. Kurt Barlow, who will be important later, can set up a furniture shop. So yeah, their ploys like to entice tourists and stuff, but don't tell anyone, but Kurt Barlow's actually a vampire and Straker's working for him. So yeah, so basically Straker's like his right-hand man. He's not a vampire because he's out during the day, so he like lures people into going to seeing Kurt Barlow, and then Kurt Barlow turns them into a vampire. Makes sense? Okay. So over the course of the story, people start disappearing and dying suddenly, and no one knows why. Anyway, spoiler alert, it has been Kurt Barlow and Straker turning people into vampires. Although how they turn people into vampires, I don't know. The book never explains it. So yeah, that's a big problem. And honestly, as the book goes on, it kind of gets more depressing. Not depressing as in like sad or like that was really emotional, but it gets like really depressing because, as I said at the start of the book, the town is like full of life and there's so many people doing whatever around. And then, like, in the final chapters of the book, there's like almost no one left. There's like maybe 10 or 20 people that aren't vampires yet because everyone else has been turned into vampires. And it's really sad. So it's like, Mark gets his parents killed by Kurt Barlow. There's a bonk with their heads, which I thought was really comedic. And Dr. Jimmy dies by falling off the stairs onto... I'm sorry, I can't say this with a straight face. He falls onto a wooden plank with nails or something, or like stakes put into it. And he dies like a Looney Tunes character. I know, it's hilarious. And then Mr. Matt Burke, who's a teacher, just kind of dies of a heart attack. But Susan is the most heartbreaking death because she gets captured by Kurt Barlow and Straker and gets turned into a vampire. And then because Ben was the one who's been most intimate with her, if you guys know what that means, he's the one that has to stake her. So he basically kills her, and it kills him inside. And yeah, that's hard to read, considering how well their relationship was built up. So anyway, more people go disappearing, more people turn into vampires, more people die. And then eventually Father Callahan leaves on a bus, and we're not going to see him for the rest of Salem's Lot, but he does return in Dark Tower 5, Wolves of the Kala, which I have not read yet, but I do know that people kind of like his return to that book. So yeah. So anyway, now we're down to Ben and Mark as our main vampire killers. So what they do is they find out through Dr. Jimmy Cody that Kurt Barlow has like some sort of blue chalk on his fingers, and they think it was from a school. But it was actually from a billiards table in the basement of Eva's boarding house where Ben has been staying the whole time. So they go to the basement, bring out the coffin, and then they stake Kurt Barlow. Like here's a stake, and then here's a hammer, so they just like keep hammering him in. And then, yeah, so Kurt Barlow is dead. And now that the vampires don't have a master, they're just like, what do we do? So anyway, Ben takes Mark, and then they go into New Hampshire, and then they go into a hotel. But after that, they've been like spending time in Mexico and stuff because the prologue of the book was them in Mexico. But in the epilogue of the book, they return to Jerusalem's Lot, and they decide that because there was a fire in 1951, I guess I should have mentioned that, but there was a giant fire in 1951 that the town has never really recovered from. So what they do is they go to the spot where the first fire supposedly started, and then they set it ablaze again, hoping that, hopefully, that maybe, just maybe, the town will burn down for real this time, and the vampires will all either go away or die. So that's how Salem's Lot ends. It's kind of a little ambiguous because they set the fire and then they go. So I guess it's up for reader interpretation. Does the fire destroy the entire town? Do the vampires leave? Who knows? And anyway, so yeah, as I said, I enjoyed reading this book again. It's like, as I said, I've been reading so many long Stephen Kings lately, like I said, 20 plus hours. And so having a 17.5-hour book, while it is still long for some people, it's short by Stephen King standards, and I enjoyed it. It was a breeze to get through. Didn't take me like a week to get through this time. I think I kind of did it 4, 5, or 6 days, something like that. And yeah, I was able to pay attention the whole time because I already knew what it was. And like, yeah, I really enjoyed Salem's Lot, and I cannot recommend reading it enough. And I don't think I've ever said this, but I actually have like my full top 5 Stephen King books out, and Salem's Lot is in 5th place. Keep in mind, I've read about 36 Stephen Kings, I think. So 5th place of 36, that's really high. Like, that is really high. So anyway, yeah, guys, I cannot recommend Salem's Lot enough. Go read it. Go watch the movies. And then now, as I said, I will be reading Night Shift next because that is the next one on the list, because it has Jerusalem's Lot, which is a prequel story to Salem's Lot. But from what I know, it does not have any vampires. And One for the Road, towards the end of the book, which is a sequel story to Salem's Lot, at least from what I've heard. So I don't know what either of those will be like. Apparently, the Jerusalem's Lot short story was included in, I think, the 2005 edition of Salem's Lot. That isn't this one, obviously, but but yeah, there are versions of it with it in there. So anyway, yeah, I'm looking forward to reading Night Shift, which I will also review for you guys. So stay tuned for that. But anyway, yeah, in conclusion, go read Salem's Lot, guys. It is so good. And now for the really big question. Do I think Salem's Lot is the greatest vampire novel ever written? I can't say, because that's the only vampire novel I've read. So, like, I know that there's the Twilight ones that are really popular. There's Dracula, which started the whole vampire thing, and there's probably a lot of others that I haven't gotten to. But Salem's Lot is the only vampire novel that I've read, and I think it's really solid. So I would say that it's the greatest vampire novel, but of course I've only read one, so I can't say that for sure. But even if it's not, it's really good. So now I will leave that up to you. Do you guys think that Salem's Lot is the greatest vampire novel ever written, or is there some that are better? But anyway, yeah, that's about all I have for you guys today. Be sure to like the video if you liked it, and subscribe to the channel if you have not. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed my review of Salem's Lot. It means a lot to me that you watched this far. And yeah, I've been Ben from the Emerald Sword, and I will see you guys next time.